Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Katrina Thompson, and I am the mayor of the Village of Broadview. I would have preferred to host this press conference today to highlight the advances of Broadview is making in creating a green economy. But unfortunately, we're here for a much different and darker reason. The relentless deployment of tear gas, pepper spray, mace, rubber bullets in the vicinity of the United States Immigration Center and Customs Enforcement Processing Center in the Village of Broadview is endangering nearby village residents and harming Broadview Police Department, Broadview firefighters, and American citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. As you may know, as recently explained in a letter to leadership in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, in case they were unaware, the tear gas does not travel like a rubber bullet. Instead, it spreads aerosol or smoke cloud. As far as it removes depends on how it deployed in environmental conditions. The canisters or the projectile itself can travel hundreds of feet when launched. The gas cloud generally irritates people within 200 to 700 feet radius, but wind can carry it further and spread it unpredictably, and it has. Broadview police officers are routinely being exposed to ICE agents, tear gas volleys, forcing them out of action until they recover. Broadview firefighters and ambulance personnel are being exposed. Nearby residents are being exposed. That is saying nothing of American citizens exercising their free speech rights that ICE agents are firing up. The ICE volleys has gone beyond gas. Broadview Police Chief Thomas Mills was verbally assaulted by an ICE agent during the protest outside of the facility earlier this month. He has been doing this job as police officer for 37 years, a long time now. But he was stunned by the attack, he told me. Mayor, I have never been spoken to by a fellow law enforcement officer in such a way. All this chaos also creates allegations of criminal activity on their part. The Village of Broadview Police Department has launched 3 separate criminal investigations into ICE activities since they've launched their blitz in Chicago area. That is 3 criminal investigations. Lots of rhetoric oozes from the White House about ending crime in urban areas. Well, from where I sit, ICE has generated criminal activity in Broadview. The Broadview Police Department has officially asked for the full cooperation of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security into our criminal investigations, and we expect their cooperation. Additionally, I want to address head-on Department of Homeland Security claims that multiple calls for assistance have been placed to the Broadview Police Department by the leadership of the ICE facility, and that calls have gone unanswered. The department has made claims in press release on September 26, a letter from acting ICE director to me. They are false. The press release assertions are false. The letter, our police log is clear, accurate, and truthful. On September 19th, regarding Village of Broadview first responder activity at 11:39 a.m., the Broadview Police Department received a single call from the ICE facility informing us of objects being thrown onto railroad tracks behind their facility. Per our protocol, Broadview Police Department contacted Harbor Belt Railroad, which is responsible for track security, to alert their security service to address ICE concerns. That's it. Let me say this, beleaguered Broadview residents, our Hispanic residents, our African American residents, our Asian American residents, our white residents are all begging for relief from ICE siege of our neighborhood and our community. They are texting me, they are calling me, they are coming into the Village Hall looking for help. In effect, the Department of Homeland Security is running a disinformation campaign that will make even Russian blush, and they are making war on my community. After I made the making war on my community in my letter to the Department of Homeland Security, ICE agents on this past Saturday morning informed Broadview Police Department officer in oral, in-person communication that would be a shit show in Broadview on Saturday. ICE agents told my officers that they would be launching enforcement action throughout all of Broadview throughout the day. Additionally, ICE informed officers that ICE agents will again deploying chemical arms such as tear gas, pepper spray, etc., against American citizens, our residents, and our first responders. ICE denied that exchange took place. But I trust the professionalism and the honesty of Broadview Police Department. They are the best in blue. In case you didn't notice, the chemical arms attacks continued on Saturday. If you watched or read the news from all over the weekend, the facts spoke for themselves. Now it all has to stop. ICE has to stop issuing falsehoods in their official communications, and instead they need to communicate truthfully with and about the village of Broadview and our first responders. ICE has to dismantle the fence. ICE has to stop putting our residents, our police officers, our firefighters, and American citizens in harm's way. ICE has to stop unprovoked chemical arms attacks on peaceful protesters and on journalists. This behavior is not normal. This is not Putin's Russia. This is the United States of America. We invented representative democracy, not military dictatorship. And because we are a democracy, I want to urge the protesters to continue to exercise your constitutional protected rights of free speech. But I want you to do it peacefully. I want you to raise your voices and not your fists. My guiding light, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who was no stranger to protest, and said, we must forever conduct our struggle on a high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. I urge protesters to follow the Reverend Dr. King's counsel. Now I have to say, it has not always been a perfect democracy. As Dr. King knew and fought to improve, this country tolerated the harmless inhumanity of slavery and Jim Crow laws way too long. And Dr. King paid the ultimate price in the quest for a more democratic United States. Nevertheless, we have made enormous progress. My presence here today as the first African-American female mayor of Broadview is a testimony to that progress. Nevertheless, racism does remain a feature of American life. That is true. Still, we have been making real progress. Now we're backsliding as a nation. As mayor, my governing approach to deploy love and kindness to achieve Broadview's objectives, following Dr. King's advice that nonviolence is absolute commitment to the way of love and that the only force capable to transforming an enemy into a friend. DHS and ICE leadership, their agents and their boss at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue should try it. They should heed Dr. King's advice. It can't hurt, it might help. That's what makes Broadview strong. Now I ask Chief Mills to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. My name is Thomas Mills. I am the Chief of Police for the Village of Broadview. We are experiencing an immediate public safety crisis. The deployment of tear gas, pepper spray, mace, and rubber bullets by ICE near the processing center in the Village of Broadview is creating a dangerous situation for the community and all first responders. Broadview residents, police officers, and firefighters, paramedics are being exposed to these agents. Our own Broadview police are routinely being exposed to ICE tear gas, forcing them out for an amount of time so they can decontaminate, get their breath, clear their eyes, which takes them out of service. The use of these weapons is directly harming Broadview's first responders. Currently, the Broadview Police Department has launched 3 separate criminal investigations into ICE activities since the Midway Blitz began in the Chicago area. We have requested the full cooperation of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in these investigations, and we expect that cooperation to happen. As a longtime police officer, 37 years, I was verbally assaulted on September 12th while being on the scene, ensuring everyone's rights, First Amendment rights, were protected, as well as property. The ICE agents were doing their operation. Our officer was there, and one of the agents basically told me that I was a fascist and was not doing my job. Neither was my officers. I was offended because in my 37 years working with the Chicago Police Department, I've worked with a lot of federal agencies on criminal investigations. That has never happened. We may not always see eye to eye, but we find a way to work it out for the better of the community in our assignments. There's a lot of false claims and lack of communication. DHS claims that the Broadview Police Department has received an unanswered multiple calls for assistance from the ICE facility. That is totally false. Our message from the very beginning is we will respond to all calls for service. We have multiple businesses directly next to the ICE facility, and those businesses are key components in the village of Broadview and our livelihood, and they deserve the best service. So again, those statements are false. We respond to every call for service. On September 9th, as an example, as the mayor mentioned, we received only a single call from the facility about objects on the railroad tracks. We did respond, but we also contacted the Harbor Belt Railroad, who has their own police department, and they sent people. Nothing happened. This past Saturday, Friday was a very busy day over there. We had to initiate 2 ILEAS call-outs. Saturday, I was alerted by one of my officers, my deputy chief and I, is that the director, Greg Bovino, was on scene. They were first in our parking lot. We asked them to please leave our parking lot, at which time they told us that they would be doing a full blitz here in the village of Broadview, and it's going to be a shit show. And also, they will be deploying more gas, tear gas and pellets in and around the facility at the demonstrators. In conclusion, I want to say, a sincere thank you to the Illinois State Police, our Cook County Sheriff, all the municipalities directly where the mayors are standing with me. Their police departments have responded to all of our calls for assistance. We are still doing mutual aid requests. And at this time, I want to restate my request to ICE and DHS for regular, routine, and consistent cooperation and communication with the Broadview Police Department. Thank you. I'd like to now bring the Fire Chief, Chief Matt Martin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Martin. I'm acting Fire Chief for the Broadview Fire Department. I want to address the illegally constructed fence. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE facility in Broadview illegally built a fence on a public street, Beach Street, in the early hours of September 23rd. This construction was done without a permit, and it's on a street under the jurisdiction of the village of Broadview. The federal government is not above our local laws. This fence is currently blocking access for the Broadview Fire Department to businesses on that road. In case of a fire or other emergency, our apparatus cannot use the street to get to the scene. Each day this fence remains, the risk of tragedy increases. That is the law of probability, and it applies to everyone, including the federal government. Broadview Fire Department immediately reached out in formal communication to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on September 23rd, demanding the fence be removed. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has failed to respond officially to those demands. This is a clear defiance of local law and an unacceptable disregard for public safety. Our demand is clear. We restate our demand to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, follow the law, and remove the fence immediately. Our personnel have been responding to emergency calls during protests, providing first aid, and transporting people to the hospital. My men and women have been exposed to chemical agent attacks while performing their duties. The risks to our Broadview Fire Department personnel remain my daily, constant worry. The failure to remove this fence only adds a pattern of behavior that endangers our first responders and the community they serve. Thank you for your time. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Lavero from the City of Berwyn.
Thank you, Chief. So I'm here today for one reason. My reason is this young lady standing to my left, as well as all the other mayors that are standing up here. We are here to work together to try and make sure that our residents are protected in this time. Because right now, we've heard about ethnicities, we heard about slavery, we've heard about all different things, but this is a human rights issue. This is something that we should all recognize. We should have grown up from what happened past years. We should now realize that we're progressing backwards. And this is a human rights issue. I'm also here to introduce a resolution that the City of Berwyn passed 8-0 that is going to be brought to City of Washington, D.C. by myself on October 6th to give to the hands of our legislators, if they are there, with respect to asking our federal legislators to pass legislation to make sure that these agents are unmasked and provide identities if our police department encounters them on the street. Because there's a lot of fraudulent people out there trying to pretend that they're with the federal government. We should have the right to have identification and know our police department needs to know who we're dealing with. We in Berwyn are a welcoming city. We do not cooperate with the federal agencies. However, we want to make sure that our people, our residents, are protected. And that's what we're all here for today, is to make sure that the residents of our communities, their rights are protected. And I stand with Mayor Thompson and everything that she has said, and I thank you for inviting me.
Question for Chief Mills first.
Yes, sir.
So, obviously, your agency is aware of transparency. You have body cameras, you have badge numbers. We know who your officers are on the street. How are you going to begin to investigate these crimes you're talking about, these alleged crimes? They don't have body cameras, the federal agents. They don't show badge numbers. How are you going to say that's the person who shot the projectile at the reporter? This is the person that ran over or ran, down this person on the street. How do you begin that?
Well, not to elaborate too much into the investigation piece, I have sent out via certified mail and email a letter requesting cooperation to Director Hott. He did respond back, ensuring we would receive cooperation. That was as of yesterday. There has been some video provided of the first pedestrian being struck. We're still trying to look at that video. As a local law enforcement official, I have to have faith that our federal law enforcement partners will cooperate with us in this investigation. We will do our best. We will leave no stone unturned. We will continue to visit that facility requesting to speak to people, and we will document this. Again, the CBS News reporter, again, whose vehicle was struck, same thing. I know who's working every day in my police department. Like you said, I have body-worn camera, all of my officers. They should have a log of who's working in there. So we just gotta hope, and I'm hoping, that they'll be truthful and transparent in providing the information.
What was your reaction when you found out that our reporter from CBS was struck?
With all of the use of them deploying gas and pellets, I wasn't surprised. When the first pedestrian was struck, my officers, they called me, they notified my deputy chief, who notified me. We formulated plans. I gave the hard decision to tell my officers to go to that gate, try to find out, try to gather, because there was some video being shared by people that was out with the young man who was struck. And while they were out there, they started deploying gas at demonstrators, and my officers called me, and they were literally choking, trying to explain to me and give me a notification. I had to tell them, get to a safe space. So again, I'm not totally shocked, but I'm very disappointed, especially when they saw our officers, the people they have staged on the roof. They saw our officers. We have total uniforms on, like you said, and for them to still disperse those type of chemical agents is very disappointing.
Chief Thompson, we now know, of course, from Governor Pritzker that the federal government is needing to send troops. Partly their reasoning is because of what happened Saturday, of course, at the processing facility. Have you been informed about federal troops arriving in Broadview, and what is your reaction to that possibility, I guess?
So Governor Pritzker did brief us yesterday on the agents coming to town. We don't want them here. That's how I feel. We don't need their enforcement of taking basic rights away from people that's generally just protesting peacefully.
And of course, they say that they're being sent because
Our police officers are doing their job. You just heard Chief Mills demonstrate that. We're a small department of 25, so that's why we're relying on our surrounding municipalities to come assist, the Illinois State Police, Cook County Sheriff Department, because we are a very small community with very limited resources.
Mayor Thompson, a lot of the protesters who are out there are asking for the facility to be shut down altogether. Do you have the authority to do that?
It's federal government.
You do not have the authority as well.
It's federal government.
Mayor Thompson,
Yes, sir, in the green.
you've been, this is the question I was trying to ask you yesterday. You, the mayor of a small suburb on the outskirts of Chicago, suddenly now in the national spotlight. This has got to be surreal for you and the people who work around you and with you. Talk about kind of what the last month has been like for you as a mayor.
So the last month for me is very simple for me. First of all, I'm not a career politician. And number two, I always practice love and kindness. So when we operate in that realm, we give people hope and faith that this too shall pass. And we cannot forget the discrimination that took place during the civil rights era. We are seeing this all over again, history repeating itself. But we break through with love and kindness.
And a follow-up, a very quick follow-up, are you concerned that this announcement, this effort today will make you more of a target by the Trump administration?
I have no idea what that looks like today.
Chief, you are legal action, any kind of injunction, going forward with this?
We are exploring our opportunities, and we'll make an announcement within the next 24, 48 hours.
Chief, regarding your investigations earlier, you said that you were disappointed with how it's been acting as of late. Your previous experiences and then previous comments made both there where you was describing where it's like, misinformation on par with Putin's Russia, et cetera. Plan A is you hope they cooperate. What's the plan B if they don't cooperate to prevent more misinformation out? That's kind of an extension of the fence here as well. You ask them politely to remove the fence and they ignore you. What's your next step?
Our next step will be to consult with our legal team.
Can you take the fence down yourself? Public Works or something?
It's fire hazards, your words.
Chief?
We're exploring all of our all of our options at this time regarding the fence.
Chief Mills, and for you, sir, or anyone who wants to take it, would you have ever expected to be at odds with federal law enforcement in this way? And how are you preparing rank and file officers to go out and respond at the detention facility in terms of how to interact with ICE and what to expect?
Thank you for that question. This is a very young department. Majority of my officers, this is their first time in law enforcement. They're shell-shocked here. In my experience, I've never experienced this. Like I said, I've been on multiple federal task forces in my career with the city of Chicago, the Chicago Police Department. Nothing but great relationships. The only thing I can kind of refer back for look at Charles Peanut Tillman, who had a successful football career with the Chicago Bears, probably a Hall of Famer at some point, who retired, became an FBI agent. He worked on teams that was under my command in the Criminal Networks Group, and he just recently resigned from the FBI as he is not happy with the direction of that agency and how they're moving forward. So again, it's very hard on my officers. We are constantly having communication. We had my deputy chief had a staff meeting with our people this morning. We're having multiple calls with our law enforcement partners from the state police, Cook County, IEMA. Everyone's trying to assist us. And again, I can't say thank you enough to the mayors that stand here and having them allow their officers, because again, we fall under the Illinois Trust Act. And even though it's a clear piece of legislation, I think, everyone's nervous. This is unprecedented times when we're actually having to try to do our job and against the federal law enforcement who's doing their job.
And for former Mayor Lightfoot, can you talk about your, relationship to Mayor Thompson and how you're assisting in this moment?
Well, first of all, I'm mindful of the comments that the chief has made. As a former federal prosecutor, I've worked extensively with federal agents of every type. And it is profoundly disappointing to me to see these ICE agents, not only here in Chicago and Broadview, Illinois, but across the country, acting in such a way like they are an armed militia accountable to no one, and especially not the people. They need to take the mask off. They need to abide by and respect local law enforcement and local rules. So it is deeply disappointing to me. And Mayor Thompson and I have known each other for a number of years. She was extraordinarily supportive of me while I was mayor, and many of these other mayors I know as well. In Northern Illinois, through a number of different organizations, notably the Municipal Metro Mayor's Caucus, we work together in times of crisis. And many of us work together, hand in glove, during COVID. I've obviously left office, but those friendships and the respect that I have for mayors across this region and the residents of this region in Chicagoland has not diminished. And so when I saw what was happening here in Broadview, I reached out to Mayor Thompson and just offered her support, just sister to sister, mayor to mayor. And I will continue to do whatever I can to be in support of her, because this is a moment where I want to make sure people don't forget what's happening here in Broadview. Yeah, you know, the parade down Michigan Avenue, the people on the boat in the river, you know, that's deeply disturbing. But right here, every single day, residents of Broadview are on the front line. They are experiencing the wrath of federal law enforcement run amok, and they deserve to have a peaceful life. They do not deserve the psychological warfare that, unfortunately, ICE, I think, is inflicting across the country, but particularly here in Chicagoland, and they don't deserve the risk of health and safety that they've experienced. Indiscriminate firing of rubber bullets, indiscriminate release of toxic fumes, that's not okay. And I put on my lawyer's hat, I put on my former prosecutor's hat, and I put on my hat of friendship for these mayors and say, anything that you need from me, I'm here to support.
Are you officially contracted to the city for legal support?
No, I'm just here to help. I'm a private citizen, and I'm here to help. Based on my experience and friendship, I'm just here to do whatever the mayor and her team will need from me.
Chief Mills or Acting Chief Martin, either one of you, you mentioned that this is impacting first responders. Have you had response times to serious emergencies slowed down by what we're seeing here? The residents of Broadview that are calling for help in an emergent situation.
I will share a brief, and then Chief Martin can add. I know our police officers are resilient. They do a phenomenal job. They are responding, providing the best service to all of our residents, our business, our stakeholders, people who come in and out of Broadview to work. So I don't think our calls for service have went down. There have been times, of course, when we have to call for more help, of course, and at that point. But even during those times, we constantly monitor our radio. Deputy Chief Johnson here is responsible for the daily operations of our police department. That's her main focus, ensuring no calls are being ignored. So like I said, you know, we do prioritize at times, but again, all of our residents have received the absolute best service we could provide them. Chief Martin?
Could you just quantify too how many police departments from other areas are coming in and how often?
Well, that's a twofold question. So we all on basically the same radio band. So if they hear one of our officers calling for help and it sounds like an emergency, like immediate, they will start responding. But we also fall under the ILEAS, Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System. So as things start happening, if we think we need help with traffic and things like that, we notify our dispatch center and we can ask for a set amount of officers, at which time they normally respond within 5 to 10 minutes. In most cases, they're the same officers or they're even additional officers. And I have to, again, I keep saying thank you to the mayors because we all have shift minimums and standards that we follow. And when we call for help in other municipalities saying, it affects their community as well. It does, you know, and again, I can't, you know, I'm just so ecstatic and happy because for every department, this is unprecedented times. Even when the officers show up Friday night, I had so many different officers from other towns, and they were sort of like deer in headlights, like, wow. They had never seen this type of action. So, Chief Martin?
In response to your question, my personnel, men and women of the Broadview Fire Department, have responded to calls in direct correlation with the facility there. We have had numerous responders exposed to both pepper spray and tear gas, myself included. I've been out there every day. So I can tell you that we've been responding, and we will continue to respond as we should when 911 calls are made. And we're giving our best effort to help anyone that is in need of our assistance from the fire department.
Have you ever been able to inspect the facility for fire codes, any violations, things like that in the past? I know you guys have responded to like.
It's a federal facility. It's a federal facility.
So what about the businesses at the end of the block that are now blocked off, the south end? I know there's that rolling gate in that parking lot to the south and east.
Mhm.
Behind that, like the Orkin business or whatever, but is that how you guys have to get in now? And also for Chief Mills, are you able to get back in there? Are they letting new officers in there as well, to the south end of Beach Street?
Yes.
They are? Okay.
Yes, we have a code to that gate.
That's the only way that you guys can get in there?
My answer is yes as well.
So Chief Mills, you have received a response from DHS, the letter that you sent, or are you still waiting to hear back on the criminal investigation?
No, I emailed yesterday a formal letter, and as well sent certified mail, and I did put that in the letter to Director Hott, and he did respond back that he would cooperate, and he also added that he would like our cooperation on some other matters, and it was a little disturbing because we didn't even know about these matters. So again, we talk about false claims.
You didn't indicate what matters you would.
Some vehicle damage type things. We were aware of one incident, but they were responsible for protecting their own property as they fenced off the area where their cars were. So again, we still took the report, but again, we're still trying to we don't even know what cars were damaged.
And they haven't provided any info yet on the investigations that your police department.
Not at this moment, no ma'am.
Do your officers have the proper equipment as gas masks?
Absolutely. Again, our mutual aid partners, Illinois State Police and everyone, they have come out. We've done our fit testing. Again, when it first started, we were not. We were using masks that we used for COVID, N95. But since then, like I said, the response to the assistance we've received has been phenomenal. All of our officers are equipped. But again, once that gas is deployed, it still gets on your skin. It burns. We don't have all PPE because, again, we have cameras. We want to record everything. So, again, our officers, they're doing the very best with the equipment that they have, but we're constantly, our mayor and our village board, they're constantly giving us all the resources that we need along with our federal partners. Not federal partners, our state partners. I'm sorry, our state partners, like Illinois State Police, Cook County, yes.
Thank you, everyone. You said you were verbally assaulted. Were any of your officers also assaulted by you?
Okay.
If you have any questions for the other mayors, after the chief responds, they'll be here.
I can't answer that. Like I said, there's a lot of back and forth, but again, they're doing a great job. Again, like I said, I received it, I was right there, and it was just shocking. So, okay, thank you.